Hello there, thrill seekers. And for today's Monday Moldy Oldie, I have picked out another clip from that interview I did for the French magazine called Prajna. I put a clip of this, I don't remember if it was last week, or I put a clip of this sometime already. And here's another clip. And in this one, I am talking about sort of speculations on the nature of the universe and the role of humanity in the universal scheme. And I had just been working on what became the final chapter of my forthcoming book, which will be called The Other Side of Nothing. And the title of that chapter is The Human Project. My editor, when he read that, said, "Oh, this doesn't really fit in with the rest of the book, but I kind of like it, so we're going to keep it anyway." So I guess it's okay. And this is me talking to a person who was Skyping me from France and asking me questions about it, and I got into some speculation. It's something that the Zen tradition generally kind of frowns upon, is speculating on the ultimate nature of reality. So it's something we generally don't do in the Zen tradition, but here I am doing it anyway, and I've done it on the YouTube channel before. Some people like it, some people don't. Anyway, here I am talking about the nature of the universe.
You said that we just see a small part of reality and that there is much more that we can't directly perceive. How do you imagine this reality, even if it's hard to say because you're not the guide master, but what is your idea on it?
It's a good question. I do have some speculations, and actually one of the things I tried to do in this new book that I'm writing is to see if I could write about my own speculations without. In the Zen tradition, there's this idea that you shouldn't talk about things that you don't directly know for yourself. So, to speculate about what the world is beyond that is sort of, you're sort of getting into an area where you're just giving your imagination. But I think the basic thing is that time doesn't operate the way we think it is. And this is something Dogen talks about a lot in his writings, about how time is not what we imagine it to be. And that there was a teacher in the Advaita Vedanta, kind of a Hindu tradition, who I've been reading lately, who said time and space are inside of you rather than you being inside of time and space. So our normal, way of thinking of the world is that we are, time and space is outside and I'm living within it. But he's saying that time and space exist within ourselves. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting way to put it, because maybe when we say the present moment is the only moment, the present moment contains infinite past and infinite future. So in that way, I'm not separate from the infinite past and infinite future. They're part of me. And Buddhism also has this funny idea called the Dharmakaya, which is the body of Buddha. And Dogen says some strange things about Dharmakaya, where he'll say all of the universe and all of space is the true human body, which is similar to this idea of the time and space exist inside of you rather than outside of you. So I think all of us are much bigger, and we have a much wider sort of life than our conscious mind allows us to know. And I think probably the conscious mind, part of its job is to kind of protect you a little bit, because if you could see your own true infinity, then you could not perform the duties of a human being properly. I think this is maybe an example of this is the way some people who get into various forms of spirituality can no longer interact with the world at all. There are stories you hear of people. I remember hearing of some master in India, and all he would do is he would sit under a blanket and he would just smile, and then people would bring him food and things, and he would just sit under this blanket and smile. And I thought, well, as an individual human being, maybe that feels very beautiful to him, but is that really what he should be doing? As a human being, maybe he should be doing, his role as a human being. And maybe because he allowed so much of the infinity of what his true being was into his human form, this is where it sounds weird, then he forgets his duty as a human being. And to me, the Zen tradition is all about trying to balance this. It's trying to understand the infinity that we really are, and still be able to clean the bathroom or whatever it is we have to do at this moment, without becoming too distracted by that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah,
it's something.
No, really interesting. So what is the human duty then, and what's the purpose of human life?
Ooh, what is the purpose of human life and human duty? It's hard to say. I think I feel like there's one. I try, like I said, I was trying to write about this for this new book I'm working on, and what I called it in the book is the human project, and it's just a way I think of things. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I feel like the universe, if you take the universe in the sense that we see and perceive it now, human beings are a very strange sort of thing. I was going to say creature, but we're a strange phenomenon in the universe, and we can do things that other animals can't do. I recently got a dog, and my dog, he's one of these dogs who's very intelligent and curious, and I can see that he wants to understand what we're talking about. He sometimes watches me and my girlfriend have conversations, and he's trying to understand the conversation. I can see it. And I think, I wish I could tell you what this conversation is about, but, you wouldn't understand. And so, but we have this ability, this level that goes far beyond any other animal that we know of on this planet. And we have a tremendous ability to understand this sort of spiritual side. And we don't know, maybe there's a lot of plants around me. I guess you can see them. Maybe plants also understand their own spiritual nature, but I think most animals probably don't. But we do, and so we've kind of gained this ability, and I feel like maybe the universe. This is also me being very speculative. Wants this to happen. Wants to have this integration where there's some part of the universe that understands it in a way that the rest of the universe can't, fully understand it. And our duty is to try to make that happen. And I feel like human beings have a very, very important role to play in the history of the Earth and the history of the universe. And right now, we're not ready to take on our role because we're getting too distracted by all the other things we can do, because we can make a computer and we can make, all sorts of other entertainments and things for ourselves to enjoy, and, beautiful food and restaurants and whatever, not that those are bad things, but we're getting too distracted by that and forgetting that we have this bigger duty to the universe as a whole. And if I was going to get really crazy and speculative, I would say that probably, this is just, completely just off my head, probably there are other places in the universe, other planets and things where people are, something like a human being exists and maybe has already moved past where we are. But maybe one of the reasons we don't hear from the aliens is because they know we're not quite there yet. We're not quite ready to take on our role. But once we can find our true position and what we're supposed to do here, then maybe a lot of areas would open up to humanity that are not open right now. Of course, this is just because I'm a big fan of science fiction and things. Maybe I'm just projecting that, but I feel like maybe there's a bigger place for us in the wider universe that if we become ready for it, we can actually get there. And I do feel like Buddhism is our human version on planet Earth of one of the ways to kind of move towards that. But of course, now I hate to even say this because now I sound like one of these crazy people who goes on TV shows and talks about aliens, but I can get like that myself. I used to work for a company that made science fiction movies, so what can I say?
No, but it feels that humanity is on a progress, and do you think that's because already a few centuries ago Dogen was not paying too much attention to the difficult issues of his time, and he was really focusing to much more profound questions such as what are we here and what are we doing here? And do you think that it's still the focus that is the more important now, or do you think that with climate change and all the crises we are going through, we should have other priorities, as you said, because maybe we are not ready yet?
Well, we do have to have those priorities, because if we destroy ourselves with climate change and with the other things that we're facing, then of course we won't ever get to our full potential. So I think it is important that some people are working on this. But I think a lot of people are working on it. I mean, it's of course still a problem, and there's still people fighting against that work, and we have to kind of figure out how to make everybody understand the general problem. But there's still a role for people who are also kind of going beyond that. So it's not necessary that everybody has to fight for climate change or fight for human rights or fight for this or that, as long as some people are doing it and some people are aware of it and moving towards that. So I think because human part of the way the human project works is that there are different people who play different roles, to make the kind of society work. So people who are focused on the more far-reaching spiritual aspects of it are also important to how to make this work, and I think we kind of need to have both.
Interesting. And I think it's something you said before, that it's like a puzzle, and do you believe that we are all here for a reason, and that we all have something specific to achieve on this passage on Earth, and we just have to discover this thing in particular?
Yeah, I think it is true on some level that we all have something that we're meant to do. But then again, sometimes when you think of it in those terms, it becomes too abstract, and then people get kind of funny ideas. So what you're meant to do, as far as I understand it, is something more on a moment by moment basis. So what am I meant to do at this moment? So if you're trying to find your grand purpose in life, sometimes that's too hard. I mean, in my own case, I think it's been too hard. I didn't set out to become a spiritual teacher or a Zen teacher or anything like that. I almost feel like it was forced on me. Like I wanted to do something else. I wanted to be a professional musician or a filmmaker or write novels. I had these things that I thought were what I wanted to do, and as life progresses, and as I go on programs like this and get asked by people who are interested in these questions, I find that okay, well I have to do this. I have to do this role, and I look at it as moment by moment. Here's the thing that I need to do, and then the next moment I'm doing something different, trying to connect them all, but also trying to not get too fixed on an idea of this is my destiny, because if I think of it as this is my destiny, then I'm kind of like, I don't want to do that. Usually, if you said my destiny is to go around the world talking about Zen, I'd be like, oh, come on, I don't want to do I feel like I'd rather do something else. But if this is my destiny, then okay, at this moment, then I'll carry out the thing that I need to do now, and and wait for the next moment to present, and then go, okay, well, that's what I'm doing next moment.